I saw that Wes's channel, Thinking Critical, he actually had Mark Millar on there. And then I started noticing it actually, this interview on media outlets. I thought that, Thinking Critical is one of those channels that was a no-no. And I'm pleasantly surprised because after listening to the podcast itself, which Mark Millar made some great points, I also just read over the articles. I'm like, wow, they're just telling the information. They're not going, he's comics adjacent, they're comic gate, sorta. Or you better be careful. They're just like, no, here are the facts, here are the things, here's what's said. And I think that's the best way to be. Like, unless you are a political leaning thing, you shouldn't be doing that and trying to tell people who to vote for and stuff like that. But right now, Mark Millar is really doing good as of, basically as of late. He has that Netflix deal. There's genuine interest in a lot of his work. I hear he's cooking on all cylinders right now. Heck, I want the new Nemesis, and I still want the old Nemesis. I don't remember if I bought that or not. I know I got Superior, but I don't know if I bought the Nemesis or not. And I definitely want to check out this Big Time story, because it looks like he's taking some of his universes and mixing them together, which I think is a really good idea. Make your own. Hey, Miller World, make Miller World. Or Millar World. Even with like naysayers, I think readers / fans and others do see YouTube as a viable source of information, whether it's video games, movies, basically just entertainment. And I think some of the machine is starting to change with all this trying to tell people they're something because they voted differently and because of what they feel or believe. I feel like it's starting to, as they say, what is it? The chickens have come home to roost. I think it's happening where people are just tired of it. Even people who agree with these people are like, yo, I don't want to hear it all the time. And especially right now with comics and stuff not doing so hot. Companies are hurting, like IDW are feeling it. The big two are feeling it. I mean, DC right now, from what I can tell, is doing a little better and are producing a little more consistent. But between the two, like, usually they don't really have to sell well because the parent companies are going to pay them. I mean, it's a drop in a bucket for them. They're using them as IP farms. But I think what's starting to happen is that now that the big daddy companies are actually starting to hurt, maybe, just maybe, they might go, you know what? Maybe we need to pivot this to pull better material to, get better results. Hopefully, I do say this. I know there are people out there that are like, well, we just want all the comic, Marvel, DC to fall as comic books. The problem is they take up most of the market. If they fall, a lot of people only get interested in indie comics and things like that because they're like, crowdfunder will rise. Not exactly. People, what happens is that sometimes if they get frustrated, like me, for example, how I got into more different types of comic books was actually not just from what I was attached to. It was because if I wanted more of this type of adventure, or if I liked this type of thing, I wanted to see more of it, like how much I love the Hulk. And then in turn, it got me to look over at Pitt and things like that. Like, my love of one got me to look at another. And that's more of, of an indie comic or a darkness and things like that. Like, the big two are needed. They just need to do better. But, as Mark Millar said, the comic industry is dying. Comic legends need to save it from extinction. That is a very telling statement. Like, he literally said he is dying, and he's right. You get the comic legends to do it. Now, you have your Chip Zdarsky's, who, all in all, I'm hearing his Batman run kind of fizzled out a little, but I mean, Chip usually writes a really good story, and I still think the Failsafe story, from what I've seen of it, is really good. You got guys like Al Ewing, who I'm now starting to think that just let that man have anything he wants to put Immortal on it and let him do his thing, because I got to check out the first Thor, and because I was looking at the thing, and I just picked it up and perused through it, and it looked awesome, the new Immortal Thor. So you got writers that, are coming through, and a little bit of a newer generation, and you keep cultivating them. Sean Gordon Murphy, like you know, Donnie Cates, even like you cultivate them, but don't worry about their politics. Worry about if they sell books. And but some of the old school guys who are still around need to. People will buy a book because of them, and I'm one of them. But when you use this stuff and you like they got wrong think or wrong type of person, they got to stop with this political nonsense. Like, people are sitting there who are massive talents. Now, some of them have gone to crowdfunding and things like that, and I think that's not a bad route. But you sometimes want them to write your characters that you fell in love with throughout the time. And Millar did advise or provide advice for the big two, and I think I tend to agree that that is a major thing. Get the big names in there. Start worrying about the stories and not so much the other stuff. He even mentions in the interview, I remember, and like I said, I read it too, but I was surprised because I listened to it later and I finally finished listening to it, but I actually read it off, I think it was CBR. He mentions the retailers and things like that about this. If you look at it, the retailers themselves, they're suffering. I talk to retailers, right? And their stuff is not selling. There's stuff from months ago that's not selling because you're not killing the game right now. And a big thing is that when you have things like Primer, do more of that. When you got like Dogman and manga, like, and they're just knocking comics and the regular Western comics aren't moving so much, that's a problem. You got to get the sales, get the business done. You have to sell to this stuff. And the fact that I've talked to retailers and I've helped my guy out, and he's even thanked me. He's like, yo, this thing is working. Like, I got him into Dogman and stuff like that. And he's like, yo, this really has been helping. But the fact that they're doing like pop culture junk, like, you know, tabletop stuff, Funko, even though Funko's starting to, I think, go down, manga, like they can't keep that on the shelves. Like, they have to go alternate routes because the main reason why they're open, they can't do it. And that shouldn't be a thing. Comic books should be there right up there with any other geek culture stuff. They should be thriving, and they're not. Because the comics aren't selling because they're doing a lot of bad stuff. Also, too, I think DC and Marvel produce too many comics. At maximum, and this is pushing it, and that's if you give someone 3 titles, I honestly think that they should only be pushing between 30 and 40 comics. And 5 to 10 of them should be new characters. More like 5 should be like characters that are a little bit more obscure. Or do those like short runs where they go, okay, like Reptile, here's a 5-issue limited or a 4-issue limited thing just because you like the character, let's feel it out. And the rest should be the other stuff. You shouldn't be having 20 comics be just X-Men. I feel like that needs to be tightened up. Or just mutants. Like, I feel like you're not producing enough to earn enough to get that much. Like, you only get that big when you're producing. So, I think, that's just my personal opinion. People can say I'm wrong. But I think 50 comics should be the maximum that they produce each month. Honestly, less would be even better. But, like I said, same with, like, Batman and X-Men. Like, yeah, have a few X-Men comics. I'm not saying don't do like 5 of them or do a character or something. But don't have like 50. Don't have like 25. Don't have like 8 Batman comics. You leave a little wiggle room, maybe 5 of the more obscure characters that people love. So give them a little love. Like I said, I like Reptile. And, you know, do that. And then maybe 5 of them are like those alternate odd comics. Like this, like Schnick. Or, you know, something like that. I don't know. But that's how I see it. I know, like, somebody like a Todd McFarlane, he would sell out. You know, Frank Miller would sell. But you got to give these people the things to do that. And also, too, I will say this, and I do mean this. Just because something has LGBTQ does not mean that it's bad or, you know, all the letters or whatever, the letter community stuff. What I don't have an issue with is when they just rush a thing like they did with Iceman. I do want to see those kind of characters. I do want to see, I don't mind if they explore it, but stop whenever they make these things, whether it's something with the letter community or whether it's something with politics, stop being so on the nose and that's the only thing, like that the one dimension of character. I know people in the community and they are more than a one-dimensional person. And I'm tired of seeing when I open a comic and a character is gay, for example, that's all they worry about. The straight characters don't do that, so why should the gay characters do it? And I'm not, like I said, Midnighter and Apollo, to me, that was a prime example of how you handle it. So, if you check out Wes's thing, you can go to the articles, you check them out. I think Mark Millar really had some good insight. I kind of just wanted to just talk about it a little, but not go too deep on anything, just kind of peruse over, especially after reading the articles, from the time that I finally finished listening to it. I read the article first. I knew about it, but I was like, now let me listen to it when I had some time. And I think it was really good stuff, and I think it was a great interview. Good on Wes and Thinking Critical. That's a really big get. Geek Protagonist, you stay safe, you stay healthy, you stay real. Tell me your thoughts, and I'll see you.